Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin the Mishneh Torah, the Sefer Yad HaChazaka, which the numerical value of Mishneh Torah is actually the amount of parakim that there are in this compilation of 1,006 parakim, where Mishneh Torah is the Yad HaChazaka, but with the 14 Sefarim of the whole Sefer Mishneh Torah, which it's really in two halves. The first half discusses the individual, the second half discusses that of the nation, which the first half is two halves, meaning the first quarter is going to be the person himself, Sefer Mad, Ahab, Zmanim, and the second quarter is regarding a person as it relates to his surroundings, regarding marriage, Nashim, Kedusha, and regarding his words as it relates to the things around him, Haflah, and Zroim regarding the agriculture. And the second half, that of the nation, the first quarter discusses the Beis HaMikdash, and the second half, the second quarter, is regarding the mishpat, the judgment, and the rulership, the dominion. That would begin Hakdamas HaRambam Zal, the introduction of the Rambam to his Sefer Mishneh Torah, which has in it the Hakdama, the introduction, discussing the premise of the Sefer, the mitzvahs aseh, positive commandments, the mitzvahs leiseh, negative prohibitions, and the structure of this Sefer. B'Shem Hashem Keil Olam, in the name of God, the name of Hashem, the God of the world, quoting a pasuk in Tehillim. Ozlei Eivish, then I will not be ashamed, b'habiti el kol mitzvah, when I look at all your mitzvahs, which that's the purpose of the Sefer, to let us know all the mitzvahs. This Rambam begins first explaining the Torah and its commentary. Kol ha-mitzvah shenitnu lo Moshe b'Sinai. All the commandments that were given to Moshe at Har Sinai, b'perush nitnu, they were given with their explanation. Like says the pasuk in Shemais, ve'etn lochas luchas eben, and we're going to give to you the tablets of stone, v'ha-Torah, and the Torah, v'ha-mitzvah, and the commandment. What does that mean? What's the two terminologies? We know the luchas are the luchas. What's Torah and mitzvah? Torah is the written law, what we call the chumash. V'ha-mitzvah, and the commandment, zupirusha, that is the commentary. And the tzivanu, and the Torah is commanding us, la'asas ha-Torah al pi ha-mitzvah, to do the Torah shabbat, based on the mitzvah, the commandment. Which a mitzvah, this mitzvah, which it says the commentary, hiya nikra is Torah shabbat. That's what's called the oral law. Which, because kol ha-Torah k'sav Moshe Rabbeinu, all of the Torah, what we call the Torah shabbat, Moshe Rabbeinu had written kodim sheyamis before he passed away, b'chsav yodeh, with his handwriting. But nasan sefer l'chol shevet v'shevet, and gave a sefer Torah to every single tribe. The sefer echad nesanua ba'aron l'ed, and one Torah scroll is put into the ark as a witness. Shlomo says in the pasuk in Devarim, l'koich a sefer Torah hazeh, to take this Torah scroll b'samtim ma'is, and you should place it, and b'hoyisham b'chol l'ed, it should be for you as over there as a witness. Now, mitzvah, the commandment, she peirush HaTorah, which is the commentary of the Torah, leichsava, that was not written down. Eletziba b'lazakenim, rather, Moshe Rabbeinu commanded it to the elders, v'lishua, to Yeshua ben Nun, v'lishakol Yisrael, to the rest of the Jewish people. Shlomo says in the pasuk, Eis kol hadavar asher neichem mitzvah eschem, over there in Devarim, all the words which I have commanded you, Eisei tishmenu lasa b'gam, that you should safeguard to do, which is the oral tradition that has to be safeguarded. And that's why it's called the oral law, because it was given over from Rabbi to student. Now, regarding the chain of this tradition, although the oral law was not written down, Moshe Rabbeinu taught all of it in his court to the 70 elders. Elazar, or Pinchas, Yeshua, the great biblical figures, Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen, and Pinchas, and Yeshua ben Nun, Shloshtem Kibbul b'Moshe, they three of them received the tradition from Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, but Yeshua to Yeshua, Shu Talmidish of Moshe Rabbeinu, who he was the student of Moshe Rabbeinu, Mosa Torah Shabbat, he gave over the Messiah, the tradition of the oral law, and he commanded him on it, which is a commandment for that student to make sure that the tradition is passed down. Yeshua, so to Yeshua, all the days of his life, he also taught orally. It was the Kingdom of Rabbi, and many elders received the tradition from Yeshua. And the Kibbul Eli HaKohen, he received him in Hazakenim from the elders, from Pinchas, and from Pinchas, who he was from one of the three main recipients from Moshe Rabbeinu. Shmuel Hanavi, Kibbul Me'eli Bezdina, he received from Eli and his courts. The David HaMelech, Kibbul Meshmuel Bezdina, he received from Shaul and his court. And continue onwards, V'achia Shelaini was mentioned in Malachim Aleph, where he reached a very long age. Miyotzim Mitzrayim, it's actually from those who left Egypt. The Levi was from Shevet Levi, but Moshe, he actually heard from Moshe Rabbeinu. But Moshe, he was very young in the days of Moshe. But who kibul medavid beis din? He primarily received the tradition from David in his court. Eliyahu Hanavi kibul machias shelaini beis din. He received the tradition from Mechias shelaini in his court. But Elisha kibul Eliyahu beis din. Elisha received from Eliyahu in his court. Yoda Kohen kibul Elisha beis din. He received from Elisha in his court. Zechariah kibul Yoda beis din. He received from Yoda in his court. Vayishaya kibul Zechariah beis din. He received from Zechariah in his court. Amos kibul Hoshea beis din. He received from Hoshea in his court. Yeshaya kibul Amos beis din. And these are many great prophets, as we find in Trei Asar and different Svarim. Yeshaya received from Amos and his court. Umicha kibul Yeshaya beis din. He received from Yeshaya in his court. Yoel kibul Micha beis din. He received from Micha in his court. V'Nachum kibul Yoel beis din, from Yoel in his court. V'Chavaka kibul Menachem beis din. Chavaka received from Nachum in his court. Utzfani kibul Chavaka beis din. Tzfani received from Chavaka in his court. V'Yirma kibul Tzfani beis din. Yirma received from Tzfani in his court. Ubaruch ben Neruya kibul Yirma beis din. He received from Yirmiyah Hanavi and his court. Ezra, the great Ezra Sefer, Beis din in his court, Kibul ben Baruch ben Neruya, that was his Rabbi, Beis din in his court. Beis din shel Ezra, now the court of Ezra Sefer, him and Akram, that was by the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, coming back from Galus Bavel. Him and Akram, they're called Anshe Knesset Agdil, the men of the great assembly. Behema, they are Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishal, Azariah, and Nehemiah ben Chachaliah, Mordechai Bilshan, famous from the story of Esther, also during that time period was Zerubbabel. Many great sages with them. Until there was a complete number of 120 elders of these men of the great assembly. The last of them, who's Shimon HaTzadik. He's Shimon, the righteous one. He was included in the 120 elders. He received the oral law from all of them. He was the high priest after Ezra Sefer. Now, it continues in the Mishnah, and Avis goes through this tradition. Antignos, who is a man from the place Seichu, Beis Dinah in his courts, Kiblu, they received Shimon HaTzadik Beis Dinah, from Shimon HaTzadik in his courts. V'Yeseh ben Yezer, who is a Ish trade from a man from Tzreida, V'Yeseh ben Yechanan, who is a Ish Shleim, a man from Yishleim, Ubeis Dinah, and their courts, Kiblu, they received Mantignos, Ubeis Dinah, from Antignos in his courts. V'Yeshua ben Parachi ben Nitna Abeli, Ubeis Dinah, and their courts, Kiblu, they received from the previous generation, Miyesi, V'Yeseh v'Beis Dinah, who that was what two we just mentioned before. Ubiyehud ben Tab by B'Shem ben Shatach, Ubeis Dinah Kiblu, and their courts, they received Miyeshua ben Nitna Ubeis Dinah, from the previous generation. Shmai Vavtalia and Gera Tzedek, they were righteous converts. Ubeis Dinam, and their courts, Kibble, they received Yehuda v'Shimon the Beis Dinam, from Yehuda and Shimon in their courts. Hil v'Shamai Ubeis Dinam, Kibble, they received Shmai Vavtalia and Beis Dinam, and from Shmai Vavtalia in their courts. Rabbi Yechon Zakai, Rabbi Shimon Benoi, Shel Hil Hazakan, Shimon the son of Hil the elder, Kiblu, they too, Rabbi Yechon Zakai and Rabbi Shimon, they received Mehil Ubeis Dinam, from Hil in his courts. Now, Chamisha Tamidim Hoyil Rabbi Yechon Zakai. Now we're up to Rabbi Yechon Zakai, together with Shimon, the son of Hil Hazakan. So Rabbi Yechon Zakai had 5 students. And they were the great sages that received from him. And they were Rabbi Elazar HaGadol, the great Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Yisrael Kohen, Rabbi Shimon ben Nesanel, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. Now, Rabbi Kiva ben Yosef, he was Kibbutz with Rabbi Elazar HaGadol. He received he's the next generation from Rabbi Elazar the great one. Now, but Yosef of his father Yosef Ger Tzaddik, he was a righteous convert. That was the father of Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Meir ben Ger Tzedek, Shmuel and Rabbi Meir, the son of a righteous convert, Kibbutz and Rabbi Kiva, they received from Rabbi Kiva. The Gam Kibbutz, they also actually received Rabbi Meir v'Chaveir of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Meir and his colleagues, they actually also received from Rabbi Shmuel, not just from Rabbi Kiva. Now, Chaveir of Rabbi Meir, who were the colleagues of Rabbi Meir? Were Rabbi Huda, Rabbi Yisi, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Nehemiah, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, Rabbi Yechon HaSandler, Rabbi Shimon ben Azar, Rabbi Hanan ben Tradian, many great Talmudic figures. V'chein kiblu chaveirav mishnei. V'chein kiblu chaveirav Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Elazar. So too, the colleagues of Rabbi Kiva also received from Rabbi Elazar. It wasn't only Rabbi Kiva. Now, who were the chaveirav Rabbi Kiva haim? We're going in a straight line, but there were many others who were some of the colleagues of Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Yisi, who was Rabbi Yisi Aglili, the Rebbe of Rabbi Yisi Aglili, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Yechon Nuri. Now, Ramil HaZakan, Ramil the elder, killed Rabbi Shimon Aviv. He received from his father, Rabbi Shimon, who was Bnei Shel HaZakan. He was the other one. We went to Rabbi Yechon Zakai. Now going back to Rabbi Shimon, the son of Hil HaZakan, Ramil HaZakan received from his father, Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon Benoi, Kibul Mimena. He had a son, Rabbi Shimon, who received from him. Rabbi Gamliel Benoi, who there was Ramil the elder, then there was a later generation called Rabbi Gamliel also. Ramil Benoi, Kibul Mimena received from him. Rabbi Shimon Benoi, Kibul Mimena. And again, another Rabbi Shimon, he received from him. Rabbi Huda ben Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Huda, the son of Rabbi Shimon, Zeh HaNikra, that's the one who was called Rabbeinu HaKadosh, our holy teacher. Rabbi Huda Nasi. And he received from his father, and also from Elazar ben Shmuel, and from his friend Reb Shimon. Now, once we got to Yehuda Nasi, discussing regarding this, and the Reb Shimon Chaveir was Reb Shimon ben Yochai, that regarding the compilation of the Mishnah. Rabbeinu HaKadosh Chibra Mishnah, our teacher, the Holy One, he formulated the Mishnah. Now, from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, who received the Torah from Hashem, until our holy teacher, they never composed a compilation that they taught in public from the oral law. Every single generation, Reish Bezdin, the head of the court, or Navi or prophet, that was in that generation, he would write for himself a recollection of the teachings that he heard from his teachers, and he would teach it orally to the public. So to every single person would write for himself according to his ability, from explanation of the Torah, and from its halachas, like he heard. And also from any new things that were introduced in every single generation, which were certain laws that were not learned from the tradition, rather from one of the 13 hermeneutic principles that one's allowed to expound the Torah, and that the high court had agreed upon that is the halacha. And that is constantly how it always was, until our holy teacher, Yehuda Nasi. Now he gathered all the teachings and all the laws, and all the explanations and the commentaries that they heard from Moshe Rabbeinu, and that every single court in every single generation had taught in the whole Torah. And he organized from this all Sefer HaMishnah, the book of the Mishnayos. And he taught it to the sages in public. The Nigel Chol Yisrael was revealed to all the Jewish people, and it was all written down. It was disseminated in every single place, so that the oral law should not be forgotten from the Jewish people. Now, why did Rabbeinu Nasi do this? He didn't leave things as they always were from the days of Moshe Rabbeinu. Because he saw that the students were getting less and less and being diminished. And the difficulties were increasing and coming. And the Roman kingdom was manifesting in the world and overpowering. And the Jewish people were being scattered to the corners of the world. So he organized one compilation to be in the hand of them all, that can be easily learned and not forgotten. Not easily, but speedily learned and not forgotten. Now he sat all his days, him and his courts, and they taught the Mishnah in public. And these are the great sages that were in the courts of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and they received the tradition from him, was Shimon and Gamliel Banav, his sons Shimon and Gamliel, Rav Efes, and Rav Chanina ben Chama, Rav Chia, Rav, Rabbi Yanai, Uba Kapara, Ushmul, Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi Hoshia. These are great sages that received from him. And with them were Alafim, Rabbavis, Meshach Chacham, thousands and tens of thousands of the other sages. Now, although these 11 sages that we mentioned, they received the tradition from Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and they stood in his exposition. Now, Rabbi Yechanan, although we mentioned him, he was from the smallest. But subsequently he was a student to Rabbi Yanai and received from him the Torah. And Rav, so to Rav, Kibbutz Rabbi Yanai also received from Rabbi Yanai. Ushmul and Shmuel Kibbutz Rabbi Chanina Berchama. Now, regarding explaining the Mishnah and the continuation of the tradition, so Rav, this is after Yehuda Nasi, one of the students, Chiber Sifra. He organized what's called the Sifra, which is a halachic medrash exposition to Sefer Yikra, which is also called Toras Kainim, and the Sifri, which is also halachic medrash for the Svarim of Bamidbar and Devarim, which was Lavar Uloidia to explain and to notify Ikarei Mishnah, the sources of the Mishnah, the sources of their halachas. Rabbi Chia, another one of the students, Chiber HaTosefta, he organized the Tosefta, which is the word of Tosefes, of additions on the Mishnah to explain what was taught in the Mishnayos, very shortly, very abridged, Lavar on the Mishnah to explain the ideas of the Mishnah. Other one of the students, Chibur Braises, Levar Devar Mishnah. They organize Braises, which is from the word of baro, which is bra, from the outside, which is that there were certain Mishnayos that were not taught in the Seder of Mishnayos Ridan Nasi. And the difference between the Tosefta and the Brises, according to the Marik, is that Tosefta was organized through Rabbi with the knowledge of Rabbi HaKadosh and his base medrash. But the Brises were organized by Rabbi Mekapar without the awareness of Rabbi and out of his base medrash. But they were both to explain the words of the Mishnah. Now, Rabbi Yechanan, one of the other students, Chibur HaTalmud HaYushalmi Be'eretz Yisrael. He organized the Yerushalmi Talmud in Eretz Yisrael, which was to explain the Mishnah. After the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, around 300 years after the destruction. And from the great sages who received from Rabbi and Shmuel, continuing on after the next generation that was post Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, was Rav Huna, Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Nachman, Rav Kahana. And from the great sages that received from Rabbi Yechanan, which was in Eretz Yisrael, was Rabbi Babachana, Rabami, Rabasi, Rabdimi, Rabavin. From the sages that received from Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda, again continuing on future generations, was Rabbi Rav Yosef. And from the sages that received from Rabbi Rav Yosef, Abaye Barabba, well known. A lot of Talmud Bavli is Abaye Barabba. Ushneim Kiblu Gam Mirav Nachman. Now both of them also received their tradition from Rav Nachman. And from the sages that received from Rabbi Ravashi Ravina. Now Umar Bar Ravashi, next generation, the son of Ravashi was Mar. Kiblu Ma'av Ravashi Ravina. He received the tradition from Ravashi and Ravina. Nimtza comes out. Ravashi at Moshe Rabbeinu Basham, Ravashi going back to Moshe, a teacher on him the peace, was Arbaam Dairis, 40 generations. Velehin, they are starting from number 1 Aleph. You have Ravashi Mirava, and this is all going back upwards. Beis number 2 Virava Miraba, Rabbi received from Rabba. Gimel Viraba was Mirav Huna. Dalad Virav Huna Rabbi Yechon Viraba Shmuel. Hey, Rabbi Yechon received, and Viraba Shmuel, they all three received Rabbi HaKadosh, Rabbi Danasi. Vav Rabbi HaKadosh, Rabbi Shimon from his father Rabbi Shimon. Zayin, number 7, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Gamliel, he received from his father Gamliel. Ches, number 8, Rabbi Gamliel, he received Rabbi Shimon from his father Rabbi Shimon. Tes, number 9, Rabbi Shimon, he received Rabbi Gamliel Hazakan of him, his father Gamliel the elder. Yud, number 10, Rabbi Gamliel Hazakan, he received Rabbi Shimon from his father Rabbi Shimon. Yud Aleph, number 11, Rabbi Shimon, he received Hil Aviv B'Shamai from his father Hil and from Shammai. Yud Beis number 12, Hil B'Shamai, Mishmai Vavtam. They received the tradition from Mishmai Vavtam. Yud Gimel number 13, Mishmai Vavtam, Yehud B'Shimon. Yud Dal Yehuda B'Shimon, this is Yud and Shimon B'Shatach. They received Yeshua ben Perach b'Nita Abeli. Tezvav 15, Yeshua ben Nita Yisib ben Yez ben Yechanan. Tezayin 16, Yez ben Yez ben Yechanan was Matignis, received tradition from Matignis. Yud Zayin 17, Matignis Mishon Atzadik from Shimon the righteous one. Yud Ches 18, Mishon Atzadik me Ezra from Ezra Sefer. Yud Tez v'Ezra me Baruch. Chav 20 v'Baruch me Yirmiyah. Chav Av Yirmiyah mitzvania. Chav Beis v'Tzvania me Chavakuk. Chav Gimel v'Chavakuk me Nachum. Chav Dal v'Nachum me Yoel. Chav He b'Yoel me Micha. Chav Vav Micha me Yeshaya. Chav Zayin v'Yeshaya me Amos. Chav Ches v'Amos me Yeshaya. Chav Tes v'Yeshaya me Zechariah. Lamed Zechariah me Yehoda. Lamed Al v'Yehoda me Elisha. Lamed Beis v'Elisha me Eliyahu. Lamed Gimel v'Eliyahu me Achia. Lamed Dal v'Achia me David. Lamed He v'David me Shmuel. Lamed Vav v'Shmuel me Eli. Lamed Zayin v'Eli me Pinchas. Lamed Ches v'Pinchas me Yeshua. Lamed Tes v'Yeshua me Moshe Rabbeinu. And Mem number 40 is a Moshe Rabbeinu. Me Pe'ah Gvur Moshe Rabbeinu learned this from the mighty one that is Hashem. Nimtz comes out Shekulam me Hashem Elokei Yisrael, that they're all from Hashem, the God of the Jewish people.